Hello, thank you all for joining me today. I appreciate you all for being part of this insight today. So, what we normally talk about here is about agricultural insights, information that could help us, just valuable tips that can help us in improving our farm practice, increase our standard of living, and also make us feel good about this job called agriculture. So, today, can you guess what I have for you? Can you? Okay, let me assist everyone. Thank you all for subscribing to my YouTube channel. Thank you all for being part of this insight today. So today what we're going to talk about is sustainable practice for farmers profitability. What are the sustainable practice we need to add to our daily farm practice? How do we have to improve our agricultural practice? And while improving this agricultural practice, it also guarantees us more profit, more income, and more heat in our production. So I'm going to tell you nine key principles or key factors you need to consider in while investing or while planning for this wet season farming, or if you started already, if you've not considered this, please try and factor all these points into now. So what are the sustainable practices you need to consider? Number one is access to appropriate farm land. We have to access a good site location that enables you to grow your crops very well in a particular location you want to grow this crop. And you should also consider security in any place you want to invest your crop production, animal production, most especially in crop production. I am more interested in crop production. So most especially your crops that doesn't need more of shelter, you need to we depend on land to sow these crops. So you need to consider the kind of location you are putting this input in. So number two, another thing, the second thing you need to consider is access to water source. Yes, when you need to, after you've properly selected a good site location from your crop production, you need to consider a good water source. Does that place have the location you have, does it have a water source or a water body in the around the location, or you need to provide an artificial irrigation for this production? You need to consider all this into, you need to factor all this. And while you are thinking of providing an irrigation source for your crops to do well, you also need to consider drainage system, a proper outlet channel for this excess water, or when excess water to be out of your farmland. You need to consider that, put that into consideration. So avoid your farm or your farmland being flooded when there is nowhere for this water to go through. So another thing you have to consider is right sourcing of farm inputs. You need to source a very good quality of farm inputs. Yes, your farm input has to be right source. You don't have to be a victim of low quality seed, adulterated seed, pesticide, fertilizers, unreliable agro-tillers. Please don't be like a farmer that always sourced a farmer that do source their inputs at immediate use. No, don't do that. Please try to stock your farm inputs as early as possible to avoid you being prone to what you just have to buy what you see in the market. That is not a good idea for you. And so another thing we have to consider is designing a proper cropping calendar. Yes, this is a key and this is paramount for you. You have to design a proper cropping calendar. You have to have a proper choice of crop. You have to determine if this crop should be annual, if it is biannual, if it is perennial. You have to consider all these factors in. And when you are considering all these factors, don't forget to only consider the agroecological forecast for our wet season pattern or rainy season pattern. So you have to consider all this. When are we expecting to have a low rainfall? when you have to have a heavy downpour, and when you are supposed to have a spell, like a drought spell, so that you won't be planting when there is a drought spell, and you won't be sowing a seed when we are expected to have a heavy downpour of water. This can flood everything and you lose a lot of things. So you need to factor this in when you are um trying to design your cropping calendar. So another thing you have to also consider is keeping farm record. Yes, this is very, very important in for you to be able to know what have you inputs, what are the investments is when you keep a proper record. So there is always reward for having a good record keeping, and when you first is recording it appropriately, that is easily accessible, readable, and is storable. You can store it, you can retrieve it anytime you need to have access to. So have a good proper record of all daily activities that happen in your farm. You need to have a very good proper record of what is happening. Another thing we need to do is improve our knowledge practice. Yeah, that is very, very important. As a farmer, you don't know it all. You need to attend seminars, you need to attend workshops, you need to attend trainings. So you need to know what is obtainable, you need to improve your knowledge practice, and that is why you need to keep learning as long as you're a farmer. So, and the next thing we have to consider is eco-friendly crop production. So while we're designing our cropping calendar, we're designing our selecting our farm inputs, we are whatsoever we want to do, we need to be considering of our eco-friendly climate. You have to be considerate of your environment. You have to be whatever we are doing now, we have to put in consideration of the next generation to come, so that this environment can also be a good place for every all of us to sustain and live on. You understand? So it's very important your produce must be healthy, must be safe, it must be healthy and safe for consumption. That is just the basic of it. You have to avoid over dependent of inorganic fertilizer into your farm. You have to avoid bad pesticide application. So you have to put a lot of things into consideration as a farmer. Another thing you have to factor in is access to market and logistic. Yes, while you are planning your cropping calendar or you're selecting a choice of crop, you should be know that this crop, does it have a market for you? Do you have a supplier or a place you want to sell this produce? So it's very key. You don't produce when you don't have where to sell it. Yes, choice of crop must meet to and market demand. Yes, what does the market need? What can I produce? Can I meet up? So you need to do a lot of factor in it. And while you are thinking of markets, you should also consider logistics. This logistics comes down from your farm gate, from your farm. So to reduce post-harvest loss, you have a wheelbarrow, you have a cart to move one produce to another. You understand? Even during harvesting, all this help you to assist to reduce post harvest lost. You understand? And how did you are you selling this produce at farm gate, or you are selling this produce at the market? So you need to consider what logistic method did you want to bring in, and how did you also consider the quality of your produce while um taking them out of your farm, or even if they'll still be in your farm. You have to consider how to maintain the shelf life of your produce. So another thing you have to consider, and that is the last for me of the 9 key factors I want to share with you today, is proper accounting profile and record. So there's always a reward for you when you have a good profile record of your account details, your financial details, of what goes in your cash flow, and if your cash flow of what goes in and what goes out in your farm. This helps you to have a proper insight of your demand and supply curve. It give you an insight of what does the market demand says, what is the supplying curve says, the what is the price of input you are buying comparing to the market demand price. You understand? You need to consider it. Maybe you need to adjust. Maybe you have to maintain your equilibrium stand. Maybe you even you can even forecast that, okay, this with used with your trend and the way you've been record keeping, you've been keeping, it can give you an insight that, okay, in next year's season farmers will need much of this particular product, and with what we have had with other things I've considered a factor in, they might need up to some particular tons of produce. So this make you give you an informed decision, earlier informed decision of what to do, and to know if you are really um profiting or you're losing. You understand? You need to consider all this facts. So thank you all for joining me today. I appreciate you all, and these are the factors we need all to consider when planning for our farm production. And if you've also investing, you've started cropping and cultivating in your location, depending on your location. Some people have started already, while some are still at the land preparation stage. It depends on your location. So please try to watch this video, share this video with farmers around you, share this information. Don't keep this to yourself alone. I know it is important, but don't keep it to yourself alone. You can also share with people around you. So till I um keep you all updated on my next video soon. Thank you all for being there. Thank you all for supporting me. And thank you all for subscribing to my channel. So